All right. So I think we are live. So hello everyone. Welcome to Board Infinity. And with us we have a member of technical staff working at Salesforce, working in the field of full stack development. Are you guys excited? Well, sir, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, hey everyone. Good evening. This is Dinesh here. I've been into IT for like more than 6 years now and been working on many technologies, starting from Java, JavaScript, and then moving on to the UI frameworks like Angular and React. And on the backend, I've also worked on Spring Boot and Vertex as well. So it's been a very fine journey, starting from a service-based industry to coming to a product-based industry, and then working on frameworks which are customized and developed by the product companies itself. So yeah, it's been a fun ride. I am from Rajasthan. I have done my BTech in 2015.
All right.
And yes,
Right.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, so it all seems a lot, all these buzzwords that you are saying, Spring Boot, Java, Maven, full stack development and all. So it seems a little scary in the mind of a fresher or someone who is just starting out. So can you just lay down the roadmap if someone is just starting out, what all things they should focus on and how should they proceed forward in the field of full stack development?
So see, everything starts with baby steps, right? So what happens is when you hear terms like this is like coming out from a guy who has been into an industry for like more than 6 years. He has worked on things. I've spent 6 years on just doing this. But as a student, you might have got many commitments, right? So you have got college commitments, you have got examination commitments, you have got group commitments, you might have got some relationship commitments as well, right? Spending time here and there, roaming on bikes and then having fun around. Okay, so you guys have got a lot of commitments in your life, but as an employee, I just had got one commitment. So if you're at a point or stage where you can just dedicate yourself into coding and programming, then definitely I'll just recommend you to take baby steps. Okay, so start smaller. So what I'll start with is, if I start with programming, so my questions to you would be, how good are you at programming? So do you even understand like how programming works, how those smaller elements like array, stack, and data structures, or how to put up logics, how to select a coffee out of a coffee vending machine, or this is the things. But yes, let me give you an opinionated answer here. So if you really want to learn how to code, I would recommend you to start with Python. Okay, this is just to start, start. Okay, but if you really want to learn the in-depths of how of the coding, and then how actually a language which is just a little bit higher than the low-level language works, so I'll recommend you C. So you might also see, like, when you start with your BTech, your first language that you learn is C. I think it's placed well there. But before that, I'll recommend you to learn how to put up your logics and how to understand the basics of how things work in the computer. Okay, then post this, there are many aspects, like how to write a code. You can write like 1,000 lines of code, and then that could also be solved in like 20 lines. Okay, so there are many things around that. So something like design patterns, types of programming, how many types of programmings are there. So you might have learned structured programming, object oriented programming, and procedural programming, etc. Right. So all of these terms come along with programming. But if we just talk about the full stack, and as a beginner, okay, to boost your confidence, start with W3 schools and learn the primary skills, which are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Right? They're plainly available there. It's like a layman language. Anyone who even doesn't have that BTech or engineering background can also read it through and understand. So it's as easy as that. So these are like the primary ingredients to become a front-end developer. And I'll let you know this thing as well. So there is no alternative to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript till date. All the applications that you see are built on these, and they are there from like a couple of decades, not even years, couple of decades. And I'm not seeing any early alternative coming up pretty soon. Okay, so I would recommend you to go with HTML, CSS, JavaScript from W3 schools. Start with that. And then these languages, they are there, and they're going to stay there for a significant amount of time. So once you get grip on these, you'll at least be able to start developing something and seeing it on your screen. So this boosts your confidence. Yes, you can do something. Right. Okay. And then moving on to the backend languages, they evolve with time. Sometimes Python was pretty popular for developing, Django-based web backends. It is still popular, but yeah, it depends on the community and how programmers are adapting and how things are evolving, how the frameworks are evolving. So there are like a variety of frameworks available: Node.js, Python, Java, Go, and this list is long. I mean, Rust. There are a couple of things coming up, right?
Right.
But the fun fact that I would recommend is learning JavaScript will actually help you in one way that you can even write backend code using Node.js. Okay.
Right.
So which is automatically going to make you a front-end and back-end developer without having the language barrier at least.
Definitely.
Right. So this is about it. So start with HTML, CSS, and JS from the W3 schools, and then move on.
Right. So, sir, in fact, while talking to you, I've been thinking that when I first asked what should be the roadmap to front-end development, and the first thing that you said is the importance of coding. And in fact, I was surprised because I was expecting the generic answer like HTML you can start with, but then you started with the importance of coding, and then about the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So, would you like to tell me how this programming logic helps you in the way of development? Right, because many a time there are students in college, they wonder like we are preparing data structures and algorithm, but when I'm working as a developer, how is it going to help me?
Okay, so how is it going to help you? So probably just think about it, like if I'm just asking you to prepare a cup of tea, right? So you're into an empty kitchen, correct? You just have a stove and say you don't have the ingredients. So what you can do is you can probably call your mom and ask, Mom, I want to prepare a cup of tea. What should I do? Okay. She'll tell you, get milk and water. So there is a possibility that you go out to shop without listening the whole instructions completely. You go out to shop and get the milk and water from them. You come back. Then your mom says, take a pan. Okay. Then you realize, oh, the pan is not washed. Okay. Then you go ahead and wash the pan. Then you keep it back. Then you put milk and water. Then you say, Mom, what about tea? I mean, this is just white. I mean, what should I do? Then she would recommend you, oh, you need to even add sugar and say the tea leaves, right? So again, you go back to the shop, you bring stuff. You do this drama, right? Because you're not listening, or you're not onto the heavier side of understanding like how the actual process is working.
Absolutely.
So how logic building is important? Yes, grab all the requirements, know what you're doing, okay, and try to find out the shortest or the most optimal way to solve a problem. I wouldn't say just solve it in one line or so that say someone like me, a mediocre developer, comes and see or understand, in one line some magic is happening, I'm not able to understand what right? It should be readable. It should be optimal. It shouldn't be like I'm going again to the shop and fetching the things and all.
Right.
So coding with logics. So logic building is like the primary ingredient. Okay. And as human beings, we all are intelligent. We have got brains, right? God has given us that gift to think about things, to make things faster. Right. So logic building is pretty much important, even if you're writing code in JavaScript, even if you're developing a simple interface, right? You still require that kind of thought, like how should I put it? So there are beautiful interfaces that are available down there from a couple of websites, right? They are being, there are awards for beautiful interfaces. Even those interfaces also require some kind of logic to be built. And when it comes to the JavaScript, which is like the functionality of what happens when any event happens on the website, that require logics. Okay, so logics are needed for start, and then if your logics are good, right? Language is just like a medium to communicate. You can learn any language if your logics are good. This is it. I mean, I have worked on like 6 or 7 different programming languages, and I never felt that there was any barrier. I was just read some take some Stack Overflow, get it done. Okay, because I had that kind of background, like how this needs to be done.
Obviously. So I think this clip needs to be definitely trimmed and shared. What is the importance of logic building, even if you are in the side of development and you do not see it every day. Now, commenting about your commenting or questioning about your last sentence that, you go through Stack Overflow and all. So how true is that meme that programmers only copy stuff from one place to another?
See, I think you might have read this news someday back, right? So there was a CV with a skill called as Googling, and they considered hiring him, right? So on Stack Overflow, for a specific problem, you might see 20 answers. Okay. Selecting the one comes from experience. Okay. So if everyone would copy stuff from Stack Overflow, paste it out, or developing, or giving production, what result it might give at the end is not sure. You just take help from it. It's like a guide, or like, okay, this is how you solve the problem. So using online communities is only good when you are good with the prior background of it.
Right. So my question would be, how frequent is this process that you're looking for something in Stack Overflow in a day, maybe, or in a week?
It Probably depends. I mean, sometimes I'll tell you, I'm being blunt here. Okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
as senior you grow, the more lazier you become. Okay?
Right,
So even sometimes for reversing a string, we go and see, oh, okay, this is how it starts.
right,
This
right.
happens. But if you ask me in an interview, I'll give you a very good answer. Take the string, go to the center, run two pointers, go to the center, skip
Right.
it, and do all this stuff. I'll tell
All
you.
right.
But in the real life, there is a possibility that there is a reverse function already existing. But
Right,
what is the problem here? I'll tell you. When a fresher starts learning, right, he doesn't goes through that insight of how things are working. So
right,
now what we are becoming, we are not becoming coders, we are becoming assemblers. Okay. If there is a
right.
reverse function already available in Python, people are not interested in understanding how you can reverse a string. So what
Right,
happens is your logic building is hampered. So whenever I sit with freshers, whenever I try to give them any kind of inputs, I tell them, see, you have got time. Okay, there is no hurry.
right.
Okay, we took 6-7 years to come to a point where we can speak about something. You at
Right,
least have got. We didn't have that kind of quality content available when we were in college. So we
definitely.
struggled there, somewhere or the other resources, or say the environment or available coaches. We struggled.
Right,
Okay, but at their point of time, there are like tons of content available on computer programming on the
right,
internet, which is very much friendly to freshers, to any level of guy. Okay,
right.
there are many coaches around there. You can go to anyone and have a word with them and understand why these things
Sure.
happen. Okay, so I mean, definitely you use Stack Overflow, but that's when
Right,
you actually get stuck into a very different problem which you might not be solving in everyday life, or you might just go
right.
to blogs and understand like how things are working.
Definitely. Right.
Yeah.
So just as you said that programmers are more and more becoming assemblers, right? So
Yes.
recently the world of programming was, let us say, shocked and both surprised as well by GitHub Copilot, right? And more than
Yes.
programmers, college students were more happy that now they can do their college assignments very easily.
I think the hiring process is gonna be tough now.
Definitely.
Yes.
Right. So, sir, you talked about that if a person learns about Node, JavaScript, then they can do both the front end part, they can do both the back end part. But there
Yes.
are multiple frameworks from JavaScript. There is Angular, there is Node, there is React. So, can you give a brief introduction to all of them? What are their
Okay.
use cases and all?
Okay, so when I speak about full stack, right? So
Right.
as everyone who's down there, stack is nothing but you keep things over one after the other, so it becomes
Right.
a stack, right? So when I speak about full stack actually starts with the interface. So what you
Right.
see of a website is called an user interface or UI.
Yes.
Okay, so all the code that's written on the UI consists of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So browser doesn't understand anything else apart from these three things. Okay, and
Right.
ultimately even CSS is compiled, even HTML is combined to become a JavaScript document object, which
All
is
right.
rendered onto the screen. Okay. So purely browser understands JavaScript. So you can take it this way. Okay.
Right.
And then whatever code you write, whatever HTML, CSS you write, you actually build a user interface. Okay. You
Right.
understand what events you're trying to do, what you're trying to do, how you're interacting with the website. That comes onto the front end. So front end actually has evolved over the time. Earlier front ends used to be very simple, like you get a simple form, you get a button, you
Right.
click it, and it used to take like 10 minutes to talk to the internet, to the server, save your information. Nowadays, a lot of
Definitely.
validations and all are also happening. Even complex logics are being written onto the front end where
Right.
they're safe. I mean, intranet and all. So there are like the whole of logic, the business logic is even written on sometimes on the front end. So it depends on architecture, like
Right.
what is the environment and how is it. But UI, the front end keeps the capability to almost do anything.
Right.
Okay. So the frameworks that have evolved over the time are Angular and React. Vue.js is also in the race where we see that these three are competing hand in hand. So
Right.
these are frameworks to work on the user interface, the front end. Coming down to the second stack, which is the backend. Okay.
Right.
On the backend, when I said Node.js, so Node.js is actually a JavaScript V8 engine port of the which was written by Google guys, or I guess the browser, the Chrome browser,
Right.
use the V8 engine. The same V8 engine was actually implemented onto a machine. Okay, and this specific port can actually be used as a server.
All
Okay,
right.
so this becomes a backend stack.
All
Okay,
right.
so the benefit of learning JavaScript is Node.js is it understands JavaScript only.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
there must be a different paradigm to code. Like when you code in front end, you have like screens to work with, you have buttons and all, you have events to work with. But on the
Right.
back end, things are different. Okay, so the paradigm is different, but language is you're free from language. The same JavaScript object that you use on the UI is being used in the backend.
Right.
So when I said when you learn JavaScript, you're free from language barrier at least. So when you learn Node.js, you just have to understand what the backend concepts are and how things work in Node.js.
Right. Right.
Okay, the whole concept remains the same.
Right. Amazing.
Yeah.
So, sir, just as you said that in your days in college, everything was the hard way around. Nowadays, there are many platforms, even like Board Infinity, where we connect students with the learners, with the industry experts, and they are taught live.
Mhm.
But back in your days, how did you prepare for the role of full stack? And what specifically interested you in full stack, not machine learning, not AI, not any other field?
Uh,
Mhm.
okay. So it's about when I was in college, how did I
Right,
come up,
right,
right?
right.
Okay. So when I was in college, I actually used to, learn things from Neptel. So for
All
us,
right.
Neptel was something like Wikipedia then for watching
Definitely.
videos and getting the information. But Neptel videos
Right.
are like quite formal. They'll tell
Yeah.
you like, okay, this is it, this is it, this is it. There was less of
Mhm.
interaction. It was
Yes,
more of
yes.
knowledge, but less of interaction. People nowadays
Right.
they want the kind of interaction to understand things because the pandemic has changed everything. Okay, everything has come online. Everything is on a Zoom.
Right, right,
Okay,
right.
so things have changed. Okay, so back then when I was there, I used to go to a local institute. I used to learn from Neptel. But the only fact then was whenever I used to go somewhere and learn, they only
Right.
answered what's means what is HTML, what is Java, what is this, what is this. They
Mhm.
never had a great answer or explanation to why. I mean, when I was learning something from Neptel about data structures, I just knew like, okay, this is linked list, this is DQ, this is queue, this is tree, this is graph, this is red black.
Right,
They
right.
never told me why should I use it, where should I use it, what is the exact scenario.
Right.
Maybe in Facebook they face some issue in commenting, they use red black tree, then they used to get it. Uh,
Mhm.
they used to rotate it and make sure that it is balanced, and they had that answers, but the
Right.
institutes didn't have that answers to it. If they made it that interactive, that fun to understand, okay, don't focus on what's. I think what's is available everywhere on the internet. You go on website, you open the React
Mhm.
documentation, you'll get what is this, what is DOM model, what is
Right,
AI,
right.
but there is nobody to give answers to your whys. Okay, so coaches are recommended to actually answer if
Definitely.
you understand like whys. When you ask me full stack, I told you you require programming. You cannot jump into full stack without having the basic logic building at least. Okay,
Right, right.
otherwise you will end up making the chai the way you were doing 2 minutes back in your
Right, right.
example, right? Yes.
Yeah, in fact, that is the very driving factor at Board Infinity, that all of our coaches are actually working professionals. So
Yes.
it is not just about knowledge anymore, it is about the applied part as well. So
Applied
we
part
keep
of it.
both
Yes.
of the things 50-50. Yeah.
Exactly. Mhm.
All right, amazing. So, sir, on a lighter note, how many hours a day do you spend in coding actually? Because nowadays we know there are multiple meetings and all, and then a major part is going on the designing and all. So, how much do you actually code?
See, I'm a very flexi person. I
Right,
have coded for like 16 hours continuous someday, and I might
right.
have just coded 16 minutes. It depends on professional and the time and all that stuff. But yes,
Right.
when I was a learner, I mean,
Mhm.
for learners who are watching this video,
Right,
I would have definitely spent around 8 to 9 hours concentrated on
right, right.
building and learning new things every day. Okay, until I reached that
Definitely.
point of confidence, it took me around 2 to 3 years to reach to that point where I was actually able to, come out like, okay, I can give answers to your problems. I can build some kind of solution. Okay, it
Right,
takes time. I wouldn't tell
right,
you 8 months or like a pro. No,
right, right.
spend some time, develop something, make it mature, make that app mature. Okay, you'll feel good. Okay,
Right.
but yeah, it takes around 8 to 9 hours of concentrated learning. It takes time.
Right, right. I definitely want the audience to focus on that. That sir said it took him around 2 years to master the things, right?
Yeah.
Because today we live in a world where people are like, okay, in 6 weeks I'll develop the skills or I'll do that. But yeah, it takes patience and persistence both, and it is essential, right?
Yeah.
So, sir, you told us that on some days you have worked 16 hours, on some days you have worked 16 minutes. So,
Hmm.
can you take us through the hierarchy, like when you are a fresher, then when you are in the mid senior level, and when you are above the senior level as well? So,
Hmm.
how does your workflow changes?
See, when you're a fresher, you are asked
Mhm.
directly to code on something, directly to work on things. So when you
Right.
become a little senior, people start respecting your opinion. So that two
Mhm.
years that it took, right? It was the point where I reached, and when people started to ask me about things, respect my
Right.
opinion. Okay, he might have coded this much, this much. He has that kind of background. There were times when my seniors didn't have that kind of, uh, mark in like developing things. They would come up with
Right.
ideas and they would say, "I just need to get this done." You
Mhm.
you see how you want to do it. Okay,
Right.
so there were points where I had to go to running out to the blogs and reading things and getting things done in
Right.
the
Right.
most latest way, in the fashionable way, or in a way where things are optimal. right? So
Right.
which is modern, which has the modern touch and which solves a lot of problems. So that takes point. See, I think if you're here learning something for concentratedly for 6 to 8 months, you're getting
Right.
things into your head at least. Okay. But
Right.
how to implement, where to implement, what are the challenges that you'll get in real world, that's going to take some time to digest at least.
Right. Right.
Okay. There could be someone more smarter who could just get it done within a year or so. Okay. There are people who can take 2 years. There are people who even struggle after 4 years. So it depends on your
Definitely.
appetite, right? How well you pick that up and how well you develop it.
Right.
Okay, how well you develop your inner level of confidence and that kind of strength that okay, whatever you understand and whatever you have learned, you're at least able to put it.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, sir, would you like to tell me, when we are in college, we are working alone on our project. So all the designing part is done by ourselves, all the coding part is done by ourselves. But definitely this process is different in the industry. So from academic to industry, what process does changes in the full stack development? How a website is developed, starting from the design to the deployment?
Okay. So when you speak about college, I really don't think you do it for your
Right.
understanding or you just do it for marks, right?
Right.
You have done it
Right.
for marks.
Mostly.
Okay. So when you're in college, you just have that kind of thought process. I want to pass it. Okay. I want to
Right.
make something different, whatever it takes.
Right.
So I guess there were startups next to my college who used to provide you ready-made projects.
Yeah,
They do
definitely.
documentation.
I think these kind of startups are in every engineering college in India. Right.
Okay, I still remember getting my sheets done. There was some
Ha,
mechanical engineering drawing in my second semester. So I
right.
actually got pissed off and I actually got one or two sheets outsourced as well. So I used to give it to kids
Right, right,
just for some samosa party or something. But yeah,
right.
when you're in college, until and unless you don't have that zeal from inside, right? You have to do it. You have to learn it. You have to actually grow from it. Okay.
Right,
So my eyes opened in the third year.
right.
Okay. I've actually attended a place where a professional from an industry who had worked in that industry as a database
Mhm.
administrator came out for training us. He
All
retired from
right.
his job. He came back and started training. So I actually started learning from him. So what he used to do was he didn't used to open a book and okay.
Mhm.
For documentation purpose, yes, he used to go through all the Oracle documentation, but the scenarios he used to share, the scenarios he used to tell us, like this is how things are done, this is how. At that point of time, I got some kind of insight. So at that point, I found myself lucky, so that there is a person from industry who comes and tells you something. Okay, it
Right.
helped me. May it not be in programming, but I was good at database then. I was great. I mean, I used to
Right.
understand things pretty well, and it
Mhm.
gave me a confidence that even if I step into any production environment right now, at least I can be that fresher who people can say, okay, fine, you get this work done, I'll get that.
Right,
Okay.
right.
I think there was a joke from Bassi and Harsh Gujral going viral, right? So
Right, right.
को 16 घंटे लगे एंट्री करने में, बट उसने आया एक लाइन में करके दिखा दिया. सो वो
Right,
16 घंटे नहीं लगते मुझे. आई वाज एट दैट पॉइंट कि मैं भी एक लाइन में कर दूं.
right,
बट
right, right.
इंडस्ट्री एक्सपर्ट्स का शैडो, इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट,
Mhm.
इट वर्क्स आउट. Okay, so when you're in college, you either do it for getting marks, or sometimes you do it for fun. Okay, but
Definitely.
if you're really into it, you might learn things along with it.
Right,
So
right.
there were kids around there who used to learn, who used to implement it and then come out with the output. When you come into industry, it totally depends. Okay, whether what kind of industry you're joining a startup, you're joining you're joining with guys who just popped out. they
Right.
they just left their corporate job, they're building something. They might give you everything. I want this
Mhm.
page to be ready, E to E. I'm not interested in how you're getting it done. Get it done. Okay.
Right.
There are industry where they follow processes. So you have sprints, you have
Mhm.
UX team, you have backend team, you have front end team, you have deployment team, you have hundreds of teams. Okay, and all of these talk and
Right.
collaborate with each other. Okay, so there are industry types, but to what I am projecting sitting here in the industry is the gap, the fine line between the front end and back end has become very thin.
All
Okay,
right.
so according to me, FSD is the future of development. So you won't be you won't be discriminated being a front end developer, back end developer,
Right,
QE.
right,
It's all gone. So full stack also includes testing. Okay.
right.
So if you have that sharp eye to understand things and find out problems and things and the programs and websites and whatever application you're working, even that will help you.
Right. So let me talk about the buzzword in the industry, that is data science, machine learning, and automation, right? So a crisp question that magazines keep on putting out,
Yeah.
that is machine learning going to crib the development jobs or not?
See, who is developing that machine learning? Humans are
Right,
there. We
right,
are the programmers who are putting something or the other into it so that it becomes smart. Okay.
right.
It might remove the mundane jobs. Okay. So I'll tell you, there are people down there who used to sit next to me and enjoy their coffee for like 2 to 3 months until developers didn't give them the code. So
All
they
right.
QEs, right? So QEs are now extinct. I think 50 or 60% of the industry have replaced QEs, and they have forced them to, at least write automation test cases or
All
learn
right.
programming or do whatever you want to do. If you want to survive, you have to learn this.
Right,
Okay.
right,
But programmers were never harmed.
right.
Okay. If you know how to code, you're going to code for machine learning, you're going to code for backend development, you're going to code for UI, you're going to code everywhere. You can code for embedded systems. You know,
Right.
you need to write code still in Python to make machine learning work. Machine learning, how it works basically, it depends on data, right?
Right,
But still the procedures, still the fetching, getting, accumulating, there are a lot of things which require programming skills.
right,
So buzzword, yes, AI, ML, these all are like the future of computer industry. You might see them, I think they are already into use.
right.
People are learning it. It will take some time to adapt, but it's gonna take some time. I don't think it's gonna replace coding pretty soon. I mean,
Right.
until you guys get graduated and you come and you will have that kind of,
Definitely.
okay, full stack is still existing till you come out. Okay, but yes, these things carry scope. So I don't think as a fresher you need to worry about it now, and then you think about
Right,
anything that's going to happen 5 years ahead of it. Right
right,
now
right,
IT industry works on learning. Okay, you don't have to stop learning. If somebody
right,
asks you, okay, from today onwards, you're not a full stack developer, you're an AI developer. Okay,
right.
I know I have got the programming logics in my mind. I know how to build an interface. So if someone asks me, okay, fine, you have to build an interface which picks up, a lot of voices and separates the voices out of it. So there must be some kind of system to develop that as well. It might
Right,
take some data, so I might require data samples from a couple of places. I need to accumulate it. I still need to write a subroutine to make sure that this thing works.
right,
So coding is not going anywhere. Okay,
right.
as an engineer, coding is your bread and butter. Focus on it. Okay. Tech
Definitely.
development is gonna stay there for some time. I don't think it's gonna go so fast that it's gonna come and
Right.
develop UI for you, which is all responsive, working in all the devices, working in all the browsers. There are enterprise level codes which are like, they're like giant elephants. Okay,
Right.
removing that with AI is still gonna take some time migrating it. So you don't have to worry
Definitely.
about this getting extinct. Okay, it's
Right,
gonna stay there till you come out, till you learn. And if your learning attitude is good, you might also learn after 5 years, 6 years, right?
right, right,
You
right.
don't have to prepare for something that's gonna come 6 years later. Definitely, you need to have that thing in the back of the mind. Even I sometimes think, okay, I should also learn things. I do it as a part time, or in my free time, I learn it out. Okay,
Right,
but the bread and butter consistently, FSD is gonna stay there for a time. There are colleges also which gives you specialization, right? They also have a field of specialization for FSD, so it is there.
right.
It's gonna stay there for some time, so you don't have to worry about it going so fast.
Definitely. And in fact, the way I compare this AI revolution, I compare it with the industrial revolution. So when
Mhm.
the machines came out, definitely people were losing mundane jobs. But
Yes.
today, if we look at the world right now, those machines worked as a building blocks of today's society. So the way I see things forward is that this data science and AI, it is going to facilitate more jobs, if not less.
Yes, it's going to facilitate more jobs. It's going to
Right,
cut down the mundane jobs. Okay, so even
right,
if you look yourself at the lower level, you're still going to go and talk with the machine at least, right? So
right,
machines are machines. They are not going to be, there
right,
are points where you need to be adaptable, flexible. Machines sometimes don't go to that level. Even there are kind of this Boston robotics working on
right,
robots. They are still able to just imagine it by making those VFX effects. But yeah, it's going to take some time to reach there. Even if automation has
definitely.
come up, there are people who are handling those machines at well, and those are also
Right,
skilled. They are not like laborers who are going to just press the button. You have to adjust sometimes. If mistakes happen, raw material goes here, there, down. There are situations where you also require people to handle those machine learning and AI stuff. So why there are jobs for data scientists now? Okay, if everything was done by machine, then why are we hiring data scientists? Right. So there is a part of job that's left to something to feed something to process and feed to the machine to understand
Right.
and build a model, right? So it's not going to go anywhere. You're just going to transform yourself from point A to point B, learning a different thing.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot, Dinesh sir, for joining us and sharing all these knowledge bombs with us. So just last question of the session: what advice would you give to freshers who are just starting out in the world of full stack development?
Join us. See, this is not a paid promotion, I'm telling you.
Right.
So one of my colleague has already taught here. It all happens like, I have got some
Right.
knowledge I want to share with someone who's interested in learning. And you are
Right.
here because you're serious about your career, right? You're not here for fun. So it feels really good to talk to the people who are interested in learning something and give you
Right.
those kind of tips.
Right.
So joining us is a good option. Okay. It's
Obviously.
always there. And if you really want to explore something else, you can go ahead and see channels like Macmillan or Mosh. They are like
Right.
good providers, but they won't answer your whys. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
even if
Obviously.
you have any coach around you who can answer your whys, recommend with, but yes,
Definitely.
you have that option here ready made. So
Right.
you can come and
And
join.
absolutely, judging by the glow on your face, we can all see that you enjoy the job you do. And hence, when you are going to learn, you are also going to enjoy. So, people, make sure to subscribe Board Infinity, like this video for more videos like this. Once again, thanks, Dinesh sir, for joining us. It was a
Thank
great
you.
session with you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Yeah. Bye.